Members, we have an imposter among us. Will the sergeants please escort the imposter from this chamber?
I didn't notice this before.
It's Senator Buckner.
Oh, Senator Buckner.
Senator Gonzalez, we will, we'll see how this goes today.
Are you sure you want to do this?
Will the clerk please call the roll?
Senators Bridges, Buckner, Coleman, Cook, Coram,
Good morning.
Danielson,
Good morning.
Donovan, Fields,
Here.
Gardner, Janal, Gonzalez, Hanson, Henriksen, Heisey, Holbert,
Happy 2/3 the way day. We're day 80, 40 to go.
Hawkes Lewis, Kirkmeyer, Kolker, Lee, Liston, Lundeen, Moreno, Pedersen, Priola, Rankin, Rodriguez, Scott,
Here.
Simpson,
Excused.
Smallwood, Sonnenberg,
Morning.
Sonnenberg,
Good morning.
Story, Winter, Woodward, Zenzinger. Mr. President,
Here. The morning roll call is 34 present, 0 absent, 1 excused. We have a quorum. Will the good senator from Aurora please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Yes, good morning. Will you all join me as we sing the Pledge of Allegiance? As we sing the Star Spangled Banner, as we say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Approval of the journal, Senator Priola.
Gracias, Presidente. Yo propongo que se prescinda de la lectura de la diario de la miércoles el 31 de marzo del 2022 y que se apruebe el diario correctado por el secretario.
Senator Priola, it's been a while since I was in Spanish class, but Miraculous, I think, is Wednesday.
Verdad. Lo siento. Jueves.
We not sure how I'm the one who caught that in this chamber. You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the motion is adopted. Senate Services.
correctly re-engrossed Senate Bill 157, correctly revised House Bill 1089, 1153, 1165, and 1286, correctly re-revised House Bill 1227 and 1262.
Committee reports.
March 31st, 2022, Committee on Agriculture and Natural Resources. After consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following. Senate Bill 167 be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. March 31st, 2022, Committee on Agriculture and Natural Resources. After consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following. Senate Bill 166 be referred to the Committee on Finance. March 31st, 2022, Committee on Judiciary. After consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following. House Bill 1003 be referred favorably to the Committee on Appropriations. March 31st, 2022, the Committee on Judiciary. After consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following. House Bill 1224 be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation and with the recommendation that it be placed on the consent calendar. March 31st, 2022, the Committee on Judiciary. After consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following. House Bill 1270 be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation and with a recommendation that it be placed on the consent calendar. March 31st, 2022, the Committee on Judiciary. After consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following. House Bill 1237 be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation and with a recommendation that it be placed on the consent calendar. March 31st, 2022, Committee on Judiciary. After consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following. House Bill 1082 be amended as follows, and as so amended be referred to the Committee on Appropriations with favorable recommendations. March 31st, 2022, Committee on Judiciary. After consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following. Senate Bill 67 be amended as follows, and as so amended be referred to the Committee on Appropriations with a favorable recommendation. March 31st, 2022, Committee on Judiciary. After consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following. Senate Bill 5 be amended as follows, and as so amended be referred to the Committee on Appropriations with favorable recommendation. March 31st, 2022, Committee on State, Veterans, and Military Affairs. After consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following. House Bill 1093 be amended as follows, and as so amended be referred to the Committee on Appropriations with favorable recommendation. March 31st, 2022, the Committee on State, Veterans, and Military Affairs. After consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following. Senate Bill 162 be amended as follows, and as so amended be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation, with a recommendation that be placed on the consent calendar.
Message from the House.
The House has passed on third reading and transmitted to the Reviser of Statutes House Bill 1330, 1329, and 1339, amended as printed in House Journal March 30th, 2022. The House has passed on third reading and transmitted to the Reviser of Statutes House Bills 1331, 1332, 1343, 1335, 1334, 1341, 1342, 1333, 1340, 1336, 1337, and 1338. The House has voted to concur in the Senate amendments to House Bills 1092, 1049, 1168, 1209, and 1252, and has repassed the bills as so amended.
Message from the Reviser.
We herewith transmit without comment House Bill 1331, 1332, 1333, 1334, 1335, 1336, 1337, 1338, 1339, 1340, 1341, 1342, and 1343 without comment as amended. House Bill 1239 and 1330.
Third reading of bills, final passage. Will the clerk please read the title to Senate Bill 114?
Senate Bill 114, Senators Heisey and Story, Representatives Roberts and Catlin, concerning fire suppression ponds and connection therewith, making an appropriation.
Senator Story.
Thank you, Mr. President. We move House Bill 114 on third reading and final passage.
Senator Heisey.
Thank you, Mr. President. I regret to inform you we have the need for a third reading amendment. Do what?
It's
Request permission to offer a
nice to know
third
that
reading
you have a
amendment.
third reading amendment. Would you like us to grant you permission?
If you would, kind sir.
Will you please explain the need for such a third reading amendment?
On
Simple R.
Thank you, Mr. President. On page 13, line 17, we refer to country commissioners, and that is supposed to be county commissioner.
Senator Heisey, I still don't understand what the problem is. Senator Story.
It's an errant R.
The question before the body is the request for permission to offer a third reading amendment. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and permission is granted. Will the clerk please read Amendment L10 to Senate Bill 114?
Amendment L10, Senator Heisey, amend re-engross bill, page 13, line 17, strike country and
Heisey.
substitute county.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move L10 to SB 114.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, the motion is for the adoption of Amendment L011 to Senate Bill 114. Are there any no votes? With a vote of 34 ayes, 0 no, 0 absent, 1 excused, L011 is adopted. To the bill. Senator Story.
Thank you, Mr. President. I missed out on being here for second reading yesterday, so just wanted to have just a brief moment. I appreciate all the work that's been done on 11, what do I want to say? On 114, the fire suppression ponds bill. And there's been an enormous amount of stakeholdering that has been done to bring this all together. We all know that having adequate water resources to be able to suppress fires is something that just about all of our communities in Colorado need, particularly for very remote areas that don't have access to fire hydrants or other firefighting resources. These ponds are often all they've got in the event of a fire. So preserving these resources that we currently have is very common sense, given the need that we need significantly more resources than we currently have. And we would appreciate your support on this bill with an aye vote.
Senator Donovan.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, colleagues and the sponsors for the hard work they've put in on getting this bill as far as it's come since its introduction. Just, I guess, a cautionary word. One of the reasons that we are having to do this bill and pull these limited number of ponds out of the prior appropriation system is because it is unlikely that they could be augmented through the normal method of establishing new water rights and new uses. Why can't they be augmented under normal processes and normal ways that we establish water rights and water uses? Because we are out of water. The other additional reason that this bill has come to fruition is because these are on the Arkansas drainage, right? And our neighbors to the east of us, right, we have threats from both sides of Colorado, but in this case, our neighbors to the east started to look up the drainage that comes into their state and said, hey, you're retaining all this water that probably is ours. So we are reaching a new time in Colorado's water future where not only do we have challenges from either side of the Continental Divide, internally, etc., by and dry, all these things that we've been talking about for many years of inside our state boundary issues, but now we have challenges from outside of our state from both sides. Hopefully we don't get north and south. It sticks to east and west right now. But mark this as just a little point in history where we started to have to work out of the appropriation system to conserve water for a critical reason, because the river has no other water. The only way we could protect this water from another state was by pulling it out of the appropriation system. Pretty significant. This bill does apply to a very narrow set of ponds. I think that's why you'll see many of us in the water community kind of reluctantly support it, but it cannot be seen as a new solution to a drier future, because once you pull something out of the prior appropriation system, you are essentially impacting every water user in the entire state. Now, they will all not be able to claim injury, right? Because that's not how that works. But as soon as you pull a drop of water out of that system of appropriation, everyone else in the appropriation system, no matter what date you have on your water right, is no longer able to access or plan or use that water. So a cautionary tale as we are 2/3 of the way of my final session.
Further discussion. The motion is the passage of Senate Bill 114. Are there any no votes? Senators Lundin, Senator Lundin, Senator Gardner, Senator Donovan.
No, she said,
She said reluctantly.
yeah.
With
Well, we already had another step up for Senator Simpson.
a vote of 31 ayes, 3 noes, 0 absent, 1 excused, Senate Bill 114 is passed. Co-sponsors. Senators Danielson, Rodriguez. Will the clerk please read the title to House Bill 1089?
House Bill 1089, Representative Woodrow, Senator Winter, concerning a requirement that transportation network companies provide insurance to protect individuals from damages caused by uninsured motorists.
Senator Winter.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the passage of House Bill 1089 on third reading and final passage.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, the motion is the passage of House Bill 1089. Are there any no votes? Senators Lundin, Minority Leader Holbert, Cook, Gardner, Liston, Kirkmeyer, Woodward, Rankin, Smallwood, Sonnenberg, Coram, Scott, Zenzinger, with a vote of 21 ayes, 13 noes, 0 absent, 1 excused, House Bill 1089 is passed. Co-sponsors. Senators Jaquez Lewis, Priola, Henriksen, Danielson, Pedersen, Story. Will the clerk please read the title to House Bill 1165?
House Bill 1165, Representative Snyder and Soper, Senators Lee and Gardner, concerning implementation of the Committee on Legal Services recommendations in connection with legislative review of state agencies' rules.
Senator Lee.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for final passage on third reading of House Bill 1165. Ask for an aye vote.
Is there further discussion? Seeing none, the motion is the passage of House Bill 1165. Are there any no votes? With a vote of 34 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 1 excused, House Bill 1165 is passed. Co-sponsors. Senators Buckner, Gonzalez, will the clerk please read the title to House Bill 1153?
House Bill 1153, Representatives Tipper and Asgar, Senators Bridges and Moreno, concerning affirming parentage by adoption for a person who did not give birth when the child is conceived as a result of assisted reproduction.
Senator Bridges.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move House Bill 1153 on third reading and final passage and ask for the Senate's indulgence in offering a third reading amendment. I think you'll like this one. I think you'll like it. You're going to feel bad you hissed on that.
Senator Bridges, please provide explanation for the third reading amendment. Senator Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. President. And colleagues, we're asking permission for a third reading amendment because, as you all may be aware, the House Majority Leader, Representative Escar, had a beautiful baby girl, Marlo. And the reason this bill is actually coming about is because her family experienced this very issue of having her partner having to adopt her own biological child. If this bill passes, that will be no longer a reality for so many families across Colorado. So we thought it appropriate to offer a third reading amendment that adds a short title labeling this bill Marlowe's Law.
Thanks, Senator.
The question before the body is permission to offer a third reading amendment. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and permission is granted. Will the clerk please read L005?
Amendment L005 by Senator Moreno, amend revised bill, page 2, line 4, after adoption, insert short title, page 5, after line 13, insert 7. The short title of this section is Mario's Law.
Majority Leader Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move amendment L005.
Is there Senator Bridges?
Thank you, Mr. President. Representative Esgar was my neighbor, my seat neighbor over in the House, and treated me very much like she was my big sister over there. And I always felt like she was a big sister. And so now that I guess I'm an uncle, I'm incredibly proud to be having this incredibly important bill that is going to be life-changing for so many folks across Colorado, just recognizing the reality of how different folks build their families. I'm incredibly proud to have this named after someone who is so special in this state and so deeply impacted by this bill. Ask for an aye vote on the amendment.
Further discussion. The motion before the body is the passage of L005 to House Bill 1153. Are there any no votes? With a vote of 34 ayes, 0 no, 0 absent, 1 excused, L005 is adopted.
Thank you.
Majority Leader Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. President. We renew our motion for the passage of House Bill 1153 as amended.
Is there any further discussion? The motion is the passage of House Bill 1153. Are there any no votes? With a vote of 34 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 1 excused, House Bill 1153 is passed. Co-sponsors: Senators Jaquez Lewis, Coleman, Henriksen, Hansen, Rodriguez, Kolker, Gonzalez, Story, Janal, Buckner, Zenzinger, Lee, Winter, Danielson, Fields, Pedersen, Corum, Donovan. Please add the president. Will the clerk please read the title to House Bill 1286?
House Bill 1286, Representative Esgar and Garnett, Senators Moreno and Fenberg, concerning the payment of the expenses of the Legislative Department.
Majority Leader Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move House Bill 1286 on third reading and final passage.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, the motion is the passage of House Bill 1286. Are there any no votes? Senators Cook, Minority Leader Holbert, Lundin, Gardner, Liston, Heisey, Kirkmeyer, Woodward, Rankin, Smallwood, Donovan, Corum, Sonnenberg, Scott, with a vote of 20 ayes, 14 noes, 0 absent, 1 excused, House Bill 1286 is passed. Co-sponsors: Senators Winter, Gonzalez, Buckner, Kolker, Hansen, Story, Rodriguez, Janal, Jaquez Lewis, Coleman, Fields, General Order, second reading of bills. What? General order, second reading of bills, consent calendar. Senator Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the committee to resolve itself into the whole for second reading of bills consent calendar.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Motion is adopted and the Senate will resolve itself into the committee of the whole for the consideration of the general order, second reading of bills, consent calendar, and Senator Rodriguez will take the chair.
The coat rule is relaxed. Will the clerk please read the titles of all the bills on general order, second reading of bills consent calendar?
House Bill 1108, Representatives Rich and Amabile, Senator Scott, concerning a requirement that the Transparency Online project web-based system include the name of the vendor paid in connection with each expenditure, including in the system. House Bill 1156, Representatives Kennedy and Williams, Senators Bridges and Gardner, concerning modification of reporting requirements affecting the disclosure of information of individuals seeking elected public office and in connection therewith, changing a campaign finance reporting deadline and clarifying a personal financial disclosure requirement. House Bill 1018, Representative Kennedy, Senator Winter, concerning a state-regulated utilities practices regarding a customer's ability to pay the customer's utility bill.
Majority Leader Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move for the passage of all the bills on the second reading of bills consent calendar, which includes House Bill 1108, House Bill 1156, and House Bill 1018. There are no committee reports.
Is there any discussion? The motion before the body is the adoption of all the bills on the general order, second reading of bills consent calendar. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the bills on the consent calendar are adopted. Majority Leader Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move the committee rise and report.
The motion is for the committee to rise and report. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the motion is adopted. The committee will rise and report.
No, that's fine. These will take a little bit, so we have some time.
Senate will come to order. Senator Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mr. President. The committee has had a number of bills under consideration. Will the clerk please read the report?
Mr. President, your committee of the whole begs leave to report that it has had under consideration the following attached bills, being the second reading thereof, and makes the following recommendation thereon. House Bill 1108, House Bill 1156, House Bill 1018, passed on second reading and ordered revised and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage.
Senator Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the adoption of the report.
The motion is the adoption of the committee of the whole report. Are there any no votes? With a vote of 34 ayes, 0 no, 0 absent, 1 excused, committee of the whole report is adopted. House Bills 1108, 1156, and 1018 passed on second reading and order revised and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage. General order, second reading of bills. Senator Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Senate resolve itself into the committee of the whole for consideration of general orders, second reading of bills.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the motion is adopted. The Senate will resolve itself into the committee of the whole for consideration of general orders, second reading of bills, and Senator Rodriguez will take the chair.
The committee will come to order, and the coat rule is relaxed. Will the clerk please read the titles of all bills on general order, second reading of bills? Oh, just 1214? Oh, read the bill.
House House Bill 1214, Representatives Young and Pelton, Senator Kolker, concerning changes to the Behavioral Health Crisis Response System.
Senator Kolker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move House Bill 1214. There are no committee reports.
There is an amendment on the desk. Will the clerk read Amendment L002?
Amendment L002, Senator Kolker, amend re-engross bill.
Senator Kolker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This bill is just this amendment, excuse me, I move this amendment 1214 L002.
To the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This amendment is just to clarify what the processes are in committee. We had some questions because this bill, and I'll go into the bill, opens up crisis services to all ages. And the questions that were brought up, a question about what are the services provided to minors, and in this amendment, shall provide crisis response screening services to any individual. So just screening services is a clarification, and I urge an aye vote.
Seeing no further discussion, the motion is the adoption of L002. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the Senator Fields. Sorry.
No problem. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Senator, for bringing this bill. One of the questions that I had in committee was the whole sense of duty to report when a young person is in crisis and has some concerns about maybe committing suicide, hurting themselves or others. Does this screening form or approach your amending the bill to address that issue?
Senator Kolker.
I believe so. If I want to get a clarification on the question, if you could just repeat the question.
Senator Fields.
Yeah. Mr. Chair, my question is regarding the screening. Will that identify a youth that is having issues with the potential of committing suicide, harming themselves or others?
Yes.
Senator Kolker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, it will.
Any further discussion? All right. Seeing none, to the L002 is it? Oh, we already did that. So seeing none, the discussion is the passage of House Bill 1214 as adopted. We already did the amendment. I adopted it. I thought I did. All right. I thought I said aye, and then we went to the bill. Yeah, I did adopt it.
Did we vote on it? The amendment.
And then I was at discussion to pass the bill. I can do it again. Okay. Is there any opposition to L002? Seeing none, the L002 is adopted. To the bill is Senator Kolker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This bill is, give you a little background on this. The General Assembly created the state's behavioral health crisis system via Senate Bill 13266 in response to the Aurora Theater shooting in July 2012. The crisis system consists of a state network within a crisis hotline, walk-in centers, crisis stabilization units, mobile crisis response services, and respite services. The Office of Behavioral Health contracts with Rocky Mountain Crisis Partner for the statewide hotline and partners with agencies called Administrative Service Organizations, otherwise known as ASOs, for the other crisis services to ensure that all Coloradans have access to needed interventions. The requirements under which crisis providers operate are defined in statute. The issue that we've been having in these crisis centers, and what we heard from testimony, is that these centers were not treating or accepting people of certain age to come in, people with disabilities. And so the purpose of this bill is to make sure that we reemphasize who they are to service. In these crisis centers, the purpose here is stabilization. If someone is having an emergency, if they're having a suicide ideation, threats to hurt others, the initial purpose is to screen and stabilize as you would in an emergency room for a physical emergency. Once that is done, it is then the crisis center's ability to connect them with further services outside of the crisis center. Again, this is just to stabilize. People can also come in if they're not in an emergency situation, and it's the job of the crisis center to connect them with more detailed services. And with that, I request an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the motion before the body is adoption of House Bill 1214. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the bill is adopted. Will the clerk please read the bill of House Bill 1247?
House Bill 1247, Representative Haird and McCluskey, Senators Hansen and Rankin, concerning requirements for additional supplemental payments for nursing facility providers and in connection therewith making an appropriation.
Senator Hansen.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I move House Bill 1247 on second reading.
Okay, that is a proper motion. To the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The bill is a very straightforward piece of legislation that simply addresses sustainability issues in nursing facilities around the state. This is a bill that we looked at with great amount of detail at the Joint Budget Committee and bring it forward for your consideration to help our nursing facilities make it through what has been a very difficult stretch, particularly because of falling census levels and the reimbursement levels that we were at over the last couple of years. And 1247 is designed to address that and increase sustainability and make sure that we have enough spaces and care facilities in the state to meet the need. So I ask for your support of 1247.
Senator Rankin, do you have anything?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is literally about survival of our nursing homes. As my co-prime has just suggested, we had payments in the previous year. This extends those payments into the next year while the census starts to build back and our nursing homes gain viability. So it's very important just to keep actual capacity of nursing homes. So I ask for your yes vote.
Senator Woodward.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And thanks to the sponsor of this bill. Nursing homes have been hit very hard during COVID. We've actually seen a couple of nursing homes go out of business in my district. The loss of patients during the scare when things were rough. There were family members. Certainly, we saw deaths all over the place. Family members started pulling their elderly relatives out of nursing homes. And I think that we're barely starting to see some of that recovery and trust rebuilt back into the system. I do know that back during 2020, if you think back to COVID, one of the things that nursing homes were facing is death among their patients. Colorado had some of the highest death rates in the country in our nursing homes in the fall of 2020. When I saw those headlines that started talking about what the numbers looked like for nursing home deaths, I began to get worried. As a matter of fact, I think the very first nursing home deaths in the state took place at a facility that's less than a mile from my home. North Shore Nursing Home had, I think, 3 or 4 deaths within the first couple of days of the outbreak. And that really was the start of what we, became a horrible part of our history here in the state of Colorado. Over the next couple of months, we began to see that spread, and once we got toward the fall, it seemed like all of a sudden we saw a big increase in some of those deaths again in nursing homes. There were some news articles and news reports that began coming out about how we were leading the nation in nursing home deaths. And there was a couple of expose stories that came out in Colorado Public Radio. CBS led some stories on what was going on, specifically around contracting and some of the concerns. I don't know if you recall, we've had some conversation and testimony here at the Capitol about how we were the state of Colorado that summer couldn't find folks to come in and help test people around the state to find out if they were positive or negative for COVID. At the time, we really wanted to isolate those patients who were positive. Made a lot of sense, but unfortunately, the state had entered into a contract with a company, a brand new startup company run by a college dropout who promised to provide $90 million worth of tests to the state. Those tests were purchased by the state under contract and then provided to nursing homes as the preferred, if not required, tests that they were required to take. Those tests started to be used in around September of 2020, and that's when the death rate started to spiral out of control. We've heard testimony in committee hearings and otherwise that talk about how as those nursing home deaths began to spiral out of control, the nursing home and assisted living facilities began to wave their hands to CDPHE and the state saying, hey, there's a problem here. Something's not working out quite right. And in fact, we think the tests are faulty. The state turned a blind ear to that and told them, keep using the tests, keep using the tests. It wasn't until January of 21 that the FDA finally came in and slapped the state of Colorado and said, you guys can't use that test. They demanded that we stop using those tests, particularly in nursing homes. And all of a sudden, the death rates slowed and turned around. Although this bill does a lot of good to make sure that we can help them survive, I don't know that it goes far enough to look back into the COVID era to find out what we did wrong. Because of that, I've been a champion to look into some of those issues, and I'd ask that the Senate right now use this bill as a way to begin looking into some of the things that happened during the COVID crisis in our assisted living facilities.
There is an amendment on the desk. Will the clerk please read Amendment L005?
Amendment L005 by Senator Woodward, amend Green Roscoe, page 2, line 5, after methodology, insert audit.
Senator Woodward.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move Amendment L005.
Thank you. Would you like to discuss, that's a proper motion, please, to the discussion of the amendment?
Sure. L005 really is kind of plain and simple. It inserts into the very introductory paragraph asking the state auditor to conduct a performance audit that includes a review of the management of the COVID-19 testing programs used by the state. Those same testing programs that ultimately played a major role and led to the death of 1,118 of our elderly population here in the state of Colorado.
Senator Hansen.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I don't believe that L005 fits under the title of this bill and would request a title ruling.
We will take a Senator 05. back in discussion. As the chair, I rule that L005 does not fit under the title of the bill. Is there any further discussion? Senator Woodward.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. One of the things that I had contemplated as I was putting this amendment together is for me, the big overall question is we need to make sure that the COVID-19 testing programs in the state of Colorado demanded to be run by the state. We need to make sure that we implemented a review process of that. I have another amendment that I'd like to provide that I think perhaps gets us a little bit closer to the ideas and concerns that the bill sponsors may have, and perhaps this would be a little more amenable.
There is an amendment at the desk. Will the clerk please read Amendment L006?
Amendment L006 by Senator Woodward, amend re-engrossed bill, line 2, line 5.
Senator Woodward.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple of minutes ago, we had a chance to get together and decide, have some conversation about whether this amendment fits within the title of the bill. The original amendment, and Mr. Chair, I better specifically move Amendment L006.
That is a proper motion. Continue your discussion.
Thank you. So in continuing, one of the concerns that we heard is perhaps the request that I was making was too broad. So the amendment that you see before you right now it's a little more specific. We're only going to look into those programs that were used by nursing home facilities. House Bill 1247, as we talked about, is I'll read the bill title, concerning requirements for additional supplemental payments for nursing home facility providers and in connection therewith making an appropriation. So House Bill 1247 digs into ways that we can help nursing facility providers survive, really recover from the COVID-19 crisis. And L006 is a chance for the legislature to step in and really make sure that we've looked into some of the COVID issues that led to so many deaths just less than 2 short years ago. So I'd ask for an aye vote on L006.
Is there any further discussion? Senator Rankin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think this is actually a very worthy recommendation. I would point you to paragraph 7 on page 4 of the bill, if you have it in front of you, which requires the State Department engaging with stakeholders, and those are called out, to submit a report and recommendations to the Joint Budget Committee, the Health and Human Services Committee of the Senate, and the Public and Behavioral Health Human Services Committee of the House, or any successor committees, concerning suggested changes for permanently changing Medicaid nursing facility provider reimbursement policy. And it actually talks about quality, sustainability, sound financial stewardship to avoid further one-time cash infusions. So I think that clearly would include testing protocols. The question is whether we would want to further call that out in this requirement. It actually says the report has to include changes to provide to affirm a nursing home provider's commitment to accountability. And it goes on to talk about infection control, all sorts of issues to be considered. So I think that the suggestion is consistent with that and is actually a very good addition. The only thing I would question is whether this is the appropriate place to call out the state auditor's office. There could perhaps be some interpretation put into this paragraph, but I kind of think it's already there. So I would say that the amendment is very valuable, but may not be necessary to accomplish what the good senator is calling out as a problem.
Senator Hansen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And members, I would request a no vote on L006. I think the other difficulty here is that the bill applies only to the Medicaid facilities. and doesn't cover the non-Medicaid nursing homes. So I think the more appropriate route for this idea would be a letter from the good senator to the chair of the audit committee. And that, I think, would be a better route to take. I don't think the amendment is needed for 1247, and I think it would have a big gap in it because this bill is only applying to the Medicaid facilities.
Senator Woodward.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. L006. When I came and spoke a few minutes ago, I really only talked about one of the testing snafus that the state had, mostly because it's the one that's most near and dear to my heart, and that's the fact that we lost over 1,100. And I try to be specific because I think every one of those lives matter. 1,118 individuals died in our nursing homes before the state finally pulled the plug on that testing program. That's the one that I tend to think about and talk about the most. But one of the other testing programs that was an abysmal failure was the effort that we had also committed to sign a contract for tests, some of those at-home tests that we now have, boxes and boxes of, now that the COVID crisis seems to be waning. I see more boxes of tests around the Capitol building and around the state than I've ever seen in my life. Sorry, it's a little bit too late for those tests. I wish we would have had those 6 months or a year ago. I wish I could say better late than never, but unfortunately we're paying the price for some very expensive COVID tests that are soon to expire. Speaking of expiration, the other mismanagement by the state as it relates to both schools and the nursing homes was the state entered into a contract to begin some of these at-home test kits. Those at-home test kits and the ones that could be used in schools, we purchased a warehouse full of those testing kits. Unfortunately, the state did a very poor job of getting those test kits where they needed to be. Those test kits sat in a warehouse. Schools were begging for them but didn't know how to get their hands on them, and ultimately those test kits expired. So we spent millions of dollars out of state funds buying test kits for schools who were desperate for them. They sat in a warehouse and expired. So that's the kind of mismanagement that I think that we owe an investigation to the people of Colorado. This bill specifically looks into ways that we can help nursing homes, and I think part of helping nursing homes is making sure that we can survive the next crisis, and one way to do that is looking back to see where we had our failures. If we don't look back to those failures that we had in the last crisis, we're bound to repeat them. So rather than sweep some of these mistakes under the rug, I'd ask this legislative body to let's move forward and do the performance audit that we have not seen performed yet. So I'd ask for an aye vote on L006.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the motion is the adoption of L006. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The noes have it, and the amendment is lost. Senator Woodward. There is an amendment at the desk. Will the clerk please read Amendment L007?
Amendment L007 by Senator Woodward, amend re-engross bill, page 2, line 5, after methodology, insert audit, page 6, line 11, insert 10. The state auditor's office shall.
Senator Woodward.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Move.
I'm a little sad, and I'm not sure.
Move the amendment, please.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chair. I move L007.
To the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm not actually. I would never question the ears of the esteemed chair. I thought I heard more yes votes than no votes. But just to help that process along, I would ask that perhaps we consider L007. In an effort to try to get some of those no votes to help overwhelm the remaining no votes, let's make this audit request a little more specific. So L007, I added some additional language. That perhaps would bring some of those no votes a little closer to a yes. Specifically, L07, what has changed from the L006 that you just read is that we're going to look that the audit is going to look into a review of the supplemental payments made to nursing home facility providers for those tests. So this perhaps brings it even closer in line. So if there was some concern that perhaps the earlier amendment didn't quite fit under the title in your mind or that kind of thing, I think this amendment brings us much closer to making sure that we take a look at the what was going on in our nursing homes around COVID testing by the state of Colorado, and I ask for an aye vote.
Senator Hansen.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I would request a no vote on L007, and I appreciate the creativity and the iterative process which we've seen with these three amendments. They are getting closer and closer each time to the bill. Unfortunately, I think we're still missing the mark here on L007, which is that this bill is about supplemental payments to Medicaid nursing facilities. And, I think this is an important topic, the COVID-19 testing look back, and let's take a hard look at what worked and what didn't, always a good thing in state government. But I would request that the amendment sponsor instead look to the audit committee for that instead of trying to insert it here into this bill, which is really focused on supplemental payments about sustainability. And so I'd ask for a no vote on L007.
Senator Rankin.
Well, I would just add to that. I think this bill is about Medicaid-supported nursing homes. I would think that if we ask for an audit, we should audit all nursing homes for this issue, whether or not they're Medicaid-supported.
Senator Zenzinger.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I also want to point out that in addition to the bill being about the supplemental payment to Medicaid facilities, the state actually paid for all COVID testing in nursing homes.
Senator Holbert.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I also appreciate the work of my colleague, the good senator from Loveland. There already has been a letter to the audit committee. There already has been a vote by the audit committee. The audit committee recommended that a letter be sent by the good senator from Loveland to the executive committee. And that letter too was written and sent. Former President Garcia and I talked about it, and it seemed unusual, if not appropriate, for the executive committee to direct the audit committee to conduct such an audit. That's why we have an audit committee. In thinking about Article 5, Section 22A of the state constitution, caucus positions are prohibited. I at least had concerns about the executive committee dictating to another committee the outcome of such a vote. But clearly, this body would have the authority to order such an audit. So I appreciate the encouragement to the good senator from Loveland that he write a letter, but I am here to testify before you, colleagues, he has done that. I think his interests are not political. Some have observed that there might be embarrassment for some who participated in making this decision, or the chief executive to whom they report. I don't think the senator from Loveland is concerned about the political blowback. I think that he's concerned about loved ones, family members, knowing the truth of what happened to their grandparents, other senior, elderly relatives, loved ones who died, in part because of false test results, false negatives and false positives. At least in part because a certain test was found to be ineffective, significantly ineffective. And the good senator from Loveland has discussed the amount of Colorado taxpayer dollars that was allocated to pay for that test that was shown to be defective, less than accurate, not accurate enough, too high a percentage of false positives and false negatives. I believe that's what the senator from Loveland is trying yet again to find a way to say, we owe answers to the people of Colorado. As a member of the executive committee, I heard a very long and detailed presentation from CDPHE about their decisions. That presentation, I believe, was made by a person who no longer works at CDPHE, who has moved on in her career. But it was interesting that the authorities, the power, the leadership of CDPHE politely kind of pointed at her and made note that she no longer works at CDPHE, and therefore there's really nothing to see there. There is. Is it political? There might be some who want to make political hay, but I don't think that's what the senator from Loveland is after. No, he's been writing letters and making requests. The letter to the executive committee was responded to that we understand the request, but it seemed odd that the audit committee would have asked for direction from the executive committee by directing the good senator from Loveland to write yet another letter to the executive committee. And again, the executive committee indicated this is really an appropriate decision to be made by the audit committee. There has been some press, some writing, some observation about this, but I think not anywhere near the level that I would have expected given the number of loved ones in nursing facilities who passed away because they were commingled either with other people who tested negative, and turns out there were false negatives. There were people who were positive with COVID who were commingled together, and then there were people who were commingled together who test positive, and many of those were false positives. I don't know the percentages, but it's certainly enough to raise concern to say we should find out what those answers are. When the people of Colorado come to ask, wait a minute, my elderly loved one passed away in a nursing facility in 2020, 2021, and I'd like to have answers. We don't have those answers. So that's what the senator from Loveland is attempting to get yet again. And again, I think he's written enough letters. I think he's had enough votes that said pass. I think it's time that we address this head on and ask for an aye vote. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Seeing no further discussion, the motion is the adoption of L007. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The noes have it, and the amendment is lost. Senator Woodward. There is an amendment at the desk. Will the clerk please read Amendment L008?
Amendment L008 by Senator Woodward and Holbert, amend re-engross
Senator
bill page.
Woodward.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sometimes
Would you like to
I
move
move
the
amendment L008.
There you go. On to the amendment.
L008, it's sometimes it's tough to get things just right. The good senator from Denver suggested that maybe we need to focus only on Medicaid authorized facilities. So I'm willing to tighten this up. We're not going to investigate all facilities. If we just need to focus on those Medicaid authorized nursing facilities, then let's just take a look at those. So hopefully we're getting there closer and closer to. Certainly, it seems like we're now within bill title. I keep hearing more yeses than nos. Perhaps we'll get yet a couple more yeses and nos, and I think we're getting close to unanimous on the yes side. So,
If there was only some lessons that have been at the well to explain how that works. Senator Hansen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, I would request a no vote on L008. If at first you don't succeed, try again. I appreciate that spirit here very much. Unfortunately, I think we're still not in the right spot. Keep in mind the state auditor does not audit Medicaid. So I think we need to keep that in mind. That is, we have other enforcement mechanisms for that, including the AG's office that looks at Medicaid payments. And this is, basically asking for a look back, and what is in this bill is a future payment that is being proposed in 1247 to help sustainability of these facilities. So I really don't think we're in the right spot here. I appreciate the sponsors of this amendment bringing it forward. Obviously an important discussion, what worked, what didn't, when we do a look back on COVID-19 testing. And certainly there's clear evidence that things were far from perfect. But again, this is just not the right vehicle, not the right place, not the right bill. That's not what we have in 1247. It's a look forward payment to help sustainability of these facilities. The state auditor doesn't audit Medicaid anyway. And so I think we've not found the right spot here with L008, and I would ask for a no vote.
Senator Rankin.
So I also would ask for a no vote, and we've talked about the issue of the auditor not being appropriate for these services, but I want to go back to page 4, paragraph 7. We have asked for an investigation. We've asked for a report. It clearly says, concerning suggested changes for permanently changing Medicaid nursing facility provider reimbursement policy to prioritize quality, sustainability, and sound financial stewardship. That's what this is. We have asked the questions about, what are Medicaid payments being used for nursing homes. So what this bill is about is survival. It's a life support bill for nursing homes. We've added to that this requirement for a report to look into those issues of quality and, in fact, dealing with patients coming out of DOC. I believe the senators, the amendments are actually a very good point that we need to further, but this is not the right bill to do them. Thank you.
Senator Zenzinger.
I have to agree with my two colleagues from the Joint Budget Committee. This is a supplemental payment to get us through the last quarter of this fiscal year. Not next fiscal year, and it's very specific to Medicaid agencies because and it's called out in the bill very specifically on page 2 and moving over onto page 3, is that the reason for this actually has more to do with the skyrocketing costs of staffing that has resulted over the past year, and the fact that our Medicaid facilities in particular, those facilities that have high Medicaid utilization rates, are closing. They are literally closing down. There are fewer and fewer opportunities for the most vulnerable members of our society. And so it's, again, separate from the points that I think are being made, because I'm not arguing the points that are being made by the good senator with these amendments. It's just divorced from what the bill does and what the bill is trying to do. So I agree with previous speakers that this is just the wrong vehicle to do it in. This is about helping those small, rural Medicaid nursing facilities that are literally closing down and getting them to the end of this fiscal year. We're still going to have to turn around and address the fact that we have two staffing agencies that collectively took $40 million from our struggling nursing homes that take in these Medicaid patients for staffing issues and staffing costs. So it's really important, in particular for these facilities that serve serve what are called individuals with complex needs, because those are the less likely to end up anywhere else but a Medicaid facility, and they need this supplemental payment just to be able to survive to the end of this fiscal year. So I appreciate the conversation. I truly do. I just feel that requiring the state auditor to do this would be inappropriate, because we need CMS to do this, not the state auditor, and they don't need to do it as a part of this bill because it's unrelated.
Senator Woodward.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And to be clear, this amendment L008, I think we heard a second ago that it's inappropriate for the state auditor's office to audit Medicaid. To be clear, this amendment does not direct the auditor to audit Medicaid. Instead, we're reviewing the supplemental payments to nursing home providers at Medicaid authorized facilities. So they happen to be Medicaid authorized facilities, but it's not an audit of Medicaid. It's instead a review of those supplemental payments. And to the bigger picture, I want to make sure that everyone's clear. I intend to vote for 1247. It's an important bill. It is what will help nursing homes survive into the next summer, into the next year, and after recovering from some tough things. So I think it's a very good bill. It's just not quite perfect. So I appreciate the conversation, the negotiation, and I hope that when I heard some earlier worry about the fact that Medicaid, that it wasn't focused on those Medicaid authorized facilities, I think this perhaps brings us just a little bit closer. And I ask for an aye vote.
Seeing no further discussion, the motion is the adoption of L008. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. No. The noes have it, and the amendment is lost. I think that was loud enough. There is an amendment at the desk. Will the clerk please read amendment L009?
Amendment L009 by Senator Woodward.
Senator
and
Woodward.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And
Senator Woodward, would you like to move your amendment?
yes, I move amendment L009.
The amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, clearly there were more, the aye votes that I heard were certainly louder than the no votes. So in an effort to get to unanimity, the good senator from Jefferson County made a point that she was concerned that perhaps this bill may not be the right vehicle because we're focused on supplemental payments, and perhaps supplementals that we don't need to focus just on supplemental payments. So what we've done, L009 strikes the word supplemental so that we can really look at all payments. And I'd ask for your aye vote.
Is there any further discussion? Senator Rankin.
Well, actually, I think the idea of restricting the audit to Medicaid facilities defeats the purpose. I mean, we really would audit all of the facilities, so I ask for a no vote.
Senator Hansen.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And having reviewed our latest iteration here with L009, I unfortunately need to repeat my call for a no vote on this particular amendment. I think we need to stay focused on what we're urgently need to accomplish with 1247, which is to help the sustainability of our nursing facilities across the state so that we have adequate capacity. Again, don't disagree with our amendment sponsors that this is a place that needs attention and review. That is a very appropriate thing to do, particularly the gravity of the situation that we faced. But unfortunately, I don't think we're really going to be able to accomplish that goal in a comprehensive way with this amendment. So it's a little confusing to me why we'd want to adopt L009 when it would leave out significant portions of the problem that they would like to examine. So I think it would be ill-advised to proceed with L9, and I ask for a no vote.
Seeing no further discussion, the motion is the adoption of L009. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The noes have it, and the amendment is lost. Senator Woodward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
House
Chair.
Bill 1286.
I appreciate the vigorous debate, and I want to say thanks for listening to my repeated calls, trying to look into what happened, what went wrong. I do think this is the right vehicle when we're evaluating nursing homes and trying to help them survive. If we don't simultaneously help them do things better by looking into some of these things, all we're doing is sweeping things under the rug. So with that, I am going to urge an aye vote on 1247.
Senator Zenzinger.
And I too would like to urge an aye vote on 1247. From the fiscal note, I just want to call out one line here. It says, under state expenditures, funding will be distributed to nursing facilities to support their short-term solvency. And that's what this is really about. We actually have to care about their solvency right now. This is critical. And so I am very thankful that the good senator from Loveland is supporting this bill because ultimately this is the right thing to do and it needs to happen for these Medicaid facilities. So thank you.
Senator Rankin.
I just want to iterate that this debate has been valuable and reviewing these amendments has been valuable, because this bill does contain the requirement for an investigation and a report. And I think the result of having this debate and looking at these amendments will be to focus on that report, to look at the quality of treatment and the structure of payments to these nursing homes. So it's a great bill. I urge a yes vote, and I believe we've had a valuable discussion on focusing that report that is in the bill.
Senator Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And mercifully, it appears that the amendment anagram game that I never asked to play is over, and I request an aye vote on this bill.
Seeing no further discussion, the motion is the adoption of Senate Bill or House Bill 1247. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the bill is adopted. Will the clerk please read House Bill 1162?
House Bill 1162, Representative Exum and Van Winkle, Senators Zenzinger and Heisey, concerning authorization to use digital number plates in lieu of metal number plates on a vehicle.
Senator Zenzinger.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move House Bill 1162 and the Transportation Committee report.
To the report.
In committee, we added a sunset.
Okay, is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the adoption is the Transportation and Energy report. Senator Heisey?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In that sunset, that was at the request of the state police. While we are not on the cutting edge of this particular system of license plates, we are definitely on the front edge. So the state police was a little concerned. They wanted to make sure they could, if this didn't work, they had a mechanism to come back and say, no, this just is not working. We tried, but we need to pull the plug. So it was at their request that we added the sunset.
Seeing no further discussion, the motion is the adoption of the Transportation and Energy Committee report. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the report is adopted. To the bill, Senator Zenzinger.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's a pretty simple bill. It allows the department allows individuals to replace one or both plates with a digital plate. It instructs the department in consultation with the State Patrol to write rules and regulations and standards around this electronic license plate. And it instructs the department to conduct a one-year review after rulemaking. And then we added a review process 5 years from now just to make sure that everything worked out the way that we hoped that it would.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, when I first saw this bill, I thought, well, this is the ultimate in vanity plates. That's really not the case. That's not the case. The manufacturers of the plates have found that a lot of fleets are using this. They have the ability, they meaning the owner of the plate. So the fleet owner would have the ability to use this to track their fleet. They would know if a particular service vehicle actually was at the at the destination that they were expected to be at. So there are more uses for this than what might initially cross your mind.
Senator Zenzinger.
And I will also just point out that digital license plates already exist in 6 other states. So they are here, they are around, and I feel that it's really important that we have a regulatory framework and scheme here in Colorado to be able to keep up with the times. Thank you.
Senator Liston.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just have a couple of questions. This is interesting. Maybe the sponsors can ask. So who are going to pay for these digital license plates, and how much do they cost? Do you have some information on that? I'm curious.
Senator Zenzinger.
The individual that wants the plate would bear all of the cost. I think, according to my notes, they are quite pricey. I don't think they are cheap, but I don't have the exact amount.
So yeah, so that's my general question. Are they 100, 200, 500, 600?
I would say it's in the hundreds, yes.
In the hundreds. Interesting. Okay. So it's not for the everyday.
Is there any further discussion?
Thank you.
Other than okay, Senator Lundin.
I thank you, Mr. Chair. I regret that I missed committee. This must have been a fascinating hearing. I'm just curious how it actually functions. I would love to see the demonstration on this. Can I get a description of how the plate actually works? Seems very 22nd century, or 21st century at least. Tell me how this works.
Senator Zenzinger.
Yes, I actually had a sample plate up in my office, and I didn't bring it down with me. I wish I had, so that you could see it, because it's actually quite interesting. But it's a digital license plate. It works off of an app. It's quite interesting when the manufacturer was talking about the security that is involved with it. It eliminates a significant amount of paper documents. It makes recording compliance requirements a little bit easier because it does all of that through the app. It does it one time, however, where it verifies that the individual renewed their license plate for that year, and so that only occurs, one time. It's not like something that they hold on to or sell your information or anything like that. It's really fascinating because part of the requirements are safety. The State Patrol wanted to make sure that if you're going to use a digital license plate, how do we know that it'll stand up? And so part of the requirements in the bill is that you do have to be able to see it in the bright sunlight from 100 yards. And so that is fulfilled by the license plates themselves. I might be able to find, there was a technical document that was sent to me on some of the science behind it, which I thought was really fascinating, and it would take me a minute to find that.
Senator Lundin.
Thank you very much. So if I wanted to honor a different aspect of the state of Colorado every month or every week, can I change the image? I mean, what can I do that is unique to this as opposed to the pre-printed bills or the bills we get currently, or not bills, but plates we get currently? Thank you, Mr.
Senator Zenzinger.
You could, but you would be stuck with that image for the full year. And then if you wanted to change the image, sometimes we have license plates with backgrounds, or it could just be like a plain digital license, or it could have, I think the example that I have in my office is from the state of Connecticut. And so one of the images has a really nice lighthouse on it. When you renew your plates, and so when you pay your registration and you renew it, you could then at that time opt into a different design, for example. Aha, so here it is. And so as you can see, it's just like a regular image. It even has like a phrase on there, "United we stand." I'm going to push this button here because this is what allows us to change the image. And there's a pause. So There we go. And then a new one will appear here in a second. Or yes, or yes. There are, I think, 6 different potential designs that were loaded on this. And again, this is just the demonstration one. So let me get to it. So that's the design here that came up. And this one, yeah, and this one doesn't have the United We Stand on it. It just has Constitution State, which is their state's motto. I'll do the next one. And they can do it in the reverse as well. So it can be black with white lettering, or it could be color. It could be with a design, like I said. So this is the reverse. And then I'll do one more just for grins. And this is the one that I thought was the most attractive of the designs, because it had the lighthouse and it had a variety of other things. So it's an interesting concept. They are being used, like I said, in 6 other states. This allows us to set up the ability to do them here. The majority of the bill is instructing the Department of Revenue to come up with the rules and the regulations in order to make these things work. So there you go.
Senator Lundin.
I appreciate that very much. But to be clear, if I choose the lighthouse design, that's mine for a year. My relationship with the Highway Patrol says that's what my plate is, and then a year later I could change it again.
Senator Zenzinger.
That's my understanding, and that's because it's not like an ongoing thing where you could just like every other day change your license plate. So just like when we go in to renew our plates, you could have the option to, change your design and pay all of the fees to do that, by the way. But if you liked your design, or if you wanted to change the design, I do want to talk about some of the other functionality, though, because we were briefed that, let's say your car was stolen, this it has the capability of putting on, it'll click over to a message that says this car is stolen. Yeah, so that they can't actually take your car and your license plate. It'll say it's stolen. And the functionality is embedded on the chip, so they wouldn't be able to take this off and put it on another car either. So it would just cease to work. And so there's some security that comes with it as well. And then also we heard that it could possibly use for, well, no, I guess this is connected if it was stolen, for an Amber Alert as well. So.
Senator Heisey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just for those of you that are thinking that perhaps you're going to offset the cost of this by using the toll lane and not have to pay tolls, it has been tested on the toll lane, so it is readable and visible. Would urge an aye vote.
Seeing no further discussion, the motion is the adoption of House Bill 1163. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes were the loudest. That bill is adopted. Majority Leader Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move the committee rise and report.
The motion before the body is to rise and report. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. That is adopted.
How does adoptive roots, everyone that has chosen to find people?
Maybe I wanted her to read the whole bill. I do have that. Well, but I could stop her whenever I want to, too. So there you go.
The Senate will come to order. Senator Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mr. President. The committee has met and had a number of bills under consideration. Will the clerk please read the report?
Mr. President, your committee of the whole begs leave to report it has had under consideration the following attached bills, being the second reading thereof, and makes the following recommendation thereon. House Bill 1214 is amended. House Bill 1247. House Bill 1162 is amended, passed on second reading, and ordered, revised, and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage.
Senator Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the adoption of the report.
The motion is the adoption of the committee of the whole report. There is an amendment on the desk. Will the clerk please read Amendment Cow 001 to the Committee of the Whole report?
Cow 001, amendment to the Committee of the Whole report. Senator Woodward moved to amend the report of the...
Thank you, Mr. President. We had a great discussion a little while ago, and I think where I seem to sense the most interest in moving Cow.001, so therefore I move Cow 001.
Is there any discussion?
It's so hard to remember.
Senator Woodward.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Or Mr. President. That was close. We had a fantastic debate and discussion around what role the legislature should take in investigating the deaths that took place here in the state of Colorado. Therefore, I would ask for an aye vote on Cow 001. This is an important vote that you're about to take. It's really asking, it's making sure that we don't simply sweep these deaths under the rug, that we take a moment and look into them to make sure that our nursing homes are safe and sound for elderly patients. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. President.
The question before the body is the adoption of Amendment 001 to the Committee of the Whole report. Are there any no votes? Senators Donovan, Winter, Henriksen, Jaquez Lewis, Rodriguez, Kolker, Gonzalez, Janal, Zenzinger, Buckner, Lee, Pedersen, Story, Danielson, Fields. Senator Danielson, I got you. Bridges. Majority Leader Moreno. Hanson. Coleman. Please add the president. With 14 ayes, 20 no, 0 absent, 1 excused, Cow 001 is lost. There is another amendment at the desk. Will the clerk please read Amendment 002 to the Committee of the Whole report?
Cow 002, amendment to the Committee of the Whole report. Senator Woodward moved to amend the report of the Committee of the Whole to show that the following amendment, House Bill 1247 did pass, that House Bill 1247 as amended did pass. Amend re-engross bill, page 6 before line 12, insert 10, whereas 1,118 elderly patients died in Colorado nursing facilities between October 1st, 2020 and January 20, 2021. The General Assembly directs the state auditor to conduct a performance audit of the contracting and administration. testing nursing facilities. The state auditor shall report its findings regarding this time period to the Legislative Audit Committee on or before December 1st, 2022. Renumber succeeding subsection accordingly.
Senator Woodward.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move Cow.002.
To the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thanks, Ms. Cole, for reading that. The language may not be familiar to you if you blinked at all, so it's important that you understand what this amendment says. I'm going to point out that this amendment is very clear. The legislature, the Senate, recognizes that the death of 1,118 elderly patients is not something that we're willing to sweep under the rug. We are directing the state auditor to look into this. And for those who might think that there's any sort of political agenda behind this, I made sure that the reporting period happened well after any of us faced re-election, and perhaps more importantly, well after the governor has a chance to, is re-elected. So we're not trying to derail anyone's re-election campaign. This is not political. The news and the reports will come in after the election, and that's really an effort to try to encourage you to vote yes, to really investigate what has so far been swept under the rug time and time again from the legislature. So I would ask for your aye vote on 002.
Thank you, Senator Woodward, for making it abundantly clear this is not political. It is very clear now. Any other discussion? The motion, or the question before the body is the adoption of Amendment Cow 2 to the Committee of the Whole report. Are there any no votes? Senators Gonzalez, Bridges, Jaquez Lewis, Coleman, Majority Leader Moreno, Donovan, Hansen, Hendrickson, Kolker, Rodriguez, Buckner, Janal, Zenzinger, Lee, Winter, Danielson, Story, Fields, Pedersen. Please add the president. With a vote of 14 ayes, 20 no, 0 absent, 1 excused, Cow 002 is lost. The question before the body is the adoption of the Committee of the Whole report. Are there any no votes? With a vote of 34 ayes, 0 no, 0 absent, 1 excused, Committee of the Whole report is adopted. House Bills 1214 is amended. House Bill 1247, 1162 as amended, passed in second reading in order revised, and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage. Committee reports.
March 31st, 2022, Committee on Education. After consideration of the merits, the committee recommends the following: House Bill 1295 be amended as follows, and as so amended be referred to the Committee on Appropriations with favorable recommendation. March 31st, 2022, the Committee on Education. After consideration of the merits, the committee recommends the following: House Bill 1202 be referred favorably to the Committee on Appropriations. March 31st, 2022, Committee on Education. After consideration of the merits, the committee recommends the following: House Bill 1255 be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation, and with a recommendation that it be placed on the consent calendar. March 31st, 2022, the Committee on Transportation and Energy. After consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following: House Bill 1139 be amended as follows, and as so amended be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation, with the recommendation that it be placed on the consent calendar. March 31st, 2022, the Committee on Transportation and Energy. After consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following: Senate Bill 170 be referred favorably to the Committee on Appropriations. April 1st, 2022, the Committee on Appropriations. After consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following: House Bill 1016 be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation, and with a recommendation that it be placed on the consent calendar. calendar. April 1st, 2022, the Committee on Appropriations, after consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following. House Bill 1043 be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. April 1st, 2022, Committee on Appropriations, after consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following. House Bill 1072 be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation with a recommendation that it be placed on the consent calendar. April 1st, 2022, Committee on Appropriations, after consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following. House Bill 1208 be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation with a recommendation that it be placed on the consent calendar. April 1st, 2022, the Committee on Appropriations, after consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following. Senate Bill 2 be amended as follows, and as so amended be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. April 1st, 2022, the Committee on Appropriations, after consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following. Senate Bill 4 be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. April 1st, 2022, the Committee on Appropriations, after consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following. Senate Bill 51 be amended as follows, and as so amended be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. April 1st, 2022, Committee on Appropriations, after consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following. Senate Bill 107 be amended as follows, and as so amended be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendations. April 1st, 2022, the Committee on Appropriations, after consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following. Senate Bill 118 be amended as follows, and as so amended be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. April 1st, 2022, the Committee on Appropriations, after consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following. Senate Bill 120 be amended as follows, and as so amended be referred to the Committee of the Whole with a favorable recommendation. April 1st, 2022, the Committee on Appropriations, after consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following. Senate Bill 127 be amended as follows, and as so amended be referred to the Committee of the Whole with a favorable recommendation and with a recommendation that it be placed on the consent calendar. April 1st, 2022, Committee on Appropriations, after consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following. Senate Bill 130 be amended as follows, and as so amended be recommended to the Committee of the Whole a favorable recommendation. April 1st, 2022, Committee on Appropriations, after consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following. Senate Bill 133 be amended as follows, and as so amended be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. April 1st, 2022, the Committee on Appropriations, after consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following. Senate Bill 147 be amended as follows, and as so amended be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation and with a recommendation that it be placed on the consent calendar. April 1st, 2022, the Committee on Appropriations, after consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following. Senate Bill 148 be amended as follows, and as so amended be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation and with a recommendation that be placed on the consent calendar. April 1st, 2022, the Committee on Appropriations, after consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following. Senate Bill 158 be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation.
Majority Leader Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Senate take up House Bills 1118, 1231, 1016, 1072, and 1208, and Senate Bills 118, 127, 147, and 148 on special orders consent calendar at the hour of 11:01 a.m. Colleagues, just two notes on this. The first two are from your Monday's consent calendar. The rest were referred by the Committee on Appropriations. Senate Bill 118 was not originally moved to consent, but have since conferred with the senator that did not place that bill on consent, and that person is fine with it being listed on consent.
The motion is that the Senate take up the bills on the calendar that I think was passed out on everyone's desks, but for clarity, it is House Bills 1118, 1231, 1016, 1072, 1208, and Senate Bills 118, 127, 147, and 148 on special orders consent at the hour of 11:01 a.m. This does require a 2/3 majority vote. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. That motion is adopted. The Senate will take up the previously discussed Senate and House bills on special orders consent at the hour of 11:01 a.m. Special orders. Second reading of bills consent calendar. Senator Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Senate resolve itself into the Committee of the Whole for consideration of special orders, second reading of bills, consent calendar.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The motion is adopted and the Senate will resolve itself into the Committee of the Whole for the consideration of the special orders, second reading of bills, consent calendar, and Senator Rodriguez will take the chair.
The committee will come to order and the court rule is relaxed. Will the clerk please read the title of all the bills on special orders, second reading of bills, consent calendar?
House Bill 1118, Representative Doherty, Senator Kolker, concerning limitations on purchasers' claims for sales and use tax refunds. House Bill 1231, Representative Van Beber and Valdez D. Senators Heisey and Fields concerning a Bill of Rights for foster parents. House Bill 1016, Representatives Carver and McLaughlin, Senators Heisey and Fields concerning a voluntary contribution designation benefiting the Feeding Colorado fund that appears on the statewide individual tax return forms and in connection therewith making an appropriation. House Bill 1072, Representatives Will and Roberts, Senators Donovan and Simpson concerning the Habitat Partnership Program. House Bill 1208, Representatives Weissman and McKee, Senator Lee concerning changes to jail data collection requirements and in connection therewith making an appropriation. Senate Bill 118, Senators Woodward, Representatives Holtorf and Valdez D. concerning the encouragement of the use of geothermal energy by providing similar treatment to solar energy. Senate Bill 127, Senators Kirkmeyer and Zenzinger, Representative Larson and McCluskey concerning funding for special education services. Senate Bill 147, Senators Kolker and Sonnenberg, Representatives Young and Pelton concerning behavioral health care integration services for children. Senate Bill 148, Senators Donovan and Simpson, Representative McLaughlin and Catlin concerning the creation of a grant program to provide grant to Colorado land-based tribes support infrastructure improvements to tribal behavioral health facilities that serve indigenous individuals.
Majority Leader Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move for the passage of all the bills on the second reading of bills consent calendar and their associated committee reports, which includes House Bill 1118, House Bill 1231 and the Health and Human Services Committee report, House Bill 1016, House Bill 1072, House Bill 1208, Senate Bill 118 and the associated State Veterans and Military Affairs and Appropriations Committee reports, Senate Bill 127 and the associated Appropriations Committee report, Senate Bill 147 and the associated Appropriations Committee report, and Senate Bill 148 and the associated Appropriations Committee report.
Is there any discussion on any of the committee reports? The motion before the body is the adoption of the committee reports on the special order second reading of bills consent calendar. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it and the committee reports are adopted. Is there any discussion on the bills? Senator Zenzinger.
Yes, members, this bill, Senate Bill 127, is on special education funding. It was unanimous in committee, it was unanimous in appropriations, but I didn't want to lose the opportunity to just call out how significant this is because it's really important. Right now, our school districts are carrying $741 million of unreimbursed expenses when it comes to special education costs. In addition to that, the average cost to support a student with special needs in our education system is $10,000, yet what we currently appropriate is $1,250 for all of our special education students. So what this bill does is it takes great steps in increasing that appropriation for all of our special education students from $1,250 to $1,750. And then secondly, we have an amount that we dedicate to those students with more complex needs, and that is called Tier B. We are supposed to be giving our school districts $6,000 in order to support those students. Right now, the appropriation is $3,387. And what this bill does is it's going to raise it. It's going to raise it up to $4,500. And so we're not quite there yet, but this is significant. And I just didn't want to let the opportunity to go by without pointing that out.
Senator Kirkmeyer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I would just say as well that the importance of this bill cannot be underscored. This is the General Assembly keeping a commitment that was made back in 2006 to actually provide the free, appropriate education to all students in our state. So I'm excited to have been on this bill. We went through the Public School Finance Interim Committee. It came out of there unanimous as well. So it's a great bill, and it just can't be underscored. It is our priority in government, at least in state government, that we should be funding education. We're finally going to start getting there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Seeing no further discussion on any of the bills on the consent calendar, the motion before the body is the adoption of all the bills on special order second reading of bills consent calendar. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no, and the ayes have it, and the bills are adopted. Majority Leader Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move the committee rise and report.
The motion is for the committee to rise and report. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the motion is adopted. The committee will rise and report.
The Senate will come to order. Senator Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mr. President. The committee has had a number of bills under consideration. Will the clerk please read the report?
Mr. President, your committee of the whole begs leave to report it has had under consideration the following attached bills, being the second reading thereof, and makes the following recommendations thereon. Senate Bill 118 is amended, Senate Bill 127 is amended, Senate Bill 147 is amended, Senate Bill 148 is amended, passed on second reading and ordered engrossed and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage. House Bill 1118, House Bill 1231 is amended, House Bill 1016, House Bill 1072, House Bill 1208, passed on second reading and ordered revised and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage.
Senator Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the report.
Motion is the adoption of the Committee of the Whole report. Are there any no votes? With a vote of 34 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 1 excused, the Committee of the Whole report is adopted. Senate Bills 118 is amended, 127 is amended, 147 is amended, 148 is amended, passed on second reading, ordered engrossed, and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage. House Bills 1118 and 1231 is amended, 1016, 1072, 1208 passed on second reading and ordered revised and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage. The following change in bill sponsorship will occur. Senator Henriksen will be added as co-prime sponsor on Senate Bill 118 with Senator Woodward. Signing of bills.
The President has signed House Bill 1257.
Took me all day. Announcements. Senator Kolker.
Senator Buckner's going for two. Thank you, Mr. President. I request a moment of personal privilege.
Granted.
We're okay. Members, today not only is April 1st, April Fool's Day, but it's also the start of April for the National Donate Life Month. For the month of April will be observed. The purpose of this is to help raise awareness about donation, encourage Americans to register as an organ, eye, and tissue donors, and to honor those that have saved lives through the gift of donation. Donate Life is the symbol of the cause of organ, eye, and tissue donation and transplantation, and in a show of support, Governor Jared Polis has officially proclaimed April as Donate Life Month in Colorado.
Senator Buckner.
Thank you, Mr. President. Donor Alliance does amazing work to raise awareness about the importance of tissue donation and organ donation. Some of the facts about organ and tissue donation: Colorado and Wyoming stats include a record 234 organ donors and 642 life-saving transplants in 2021. And that's an 8.8 increase in organ donors and a 3.3 increase in lives saved compared to 2020. My personal story about organ donation goes back to 2017 when House Bill 17-1027 was signed into law, and it passed the House and Senate unanimously. This put into action the Emily Keyes John W. Buckner Organ and Tissue Donation Awareness Fund, which allows applicants, when you go in for your driver's license or ID card or your license renewal, to donate $1 or more at your discretion for public education for the life-saving work of organ and tissue donation and transplantation. Since this fund has helped so many people become aware of organ donation, since this bill was passed, 7 million organ and tissue organ donor registration. Let me go back. More than 7 million organ and tissue donor registrations have been made since this important bill was passed. Emily Keyes believed in organ donation, as did my husband. So I hope all of you have a heart on your driver's license. Yes, which means you are a donor. So thanks to all of you for being donors. Thanks to Donor Alliance for your hard work in making the public aware of how important organ donations are.
Senator Kolker.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just to follow up, Coloradans can sign up to being organ, eye, and tissue donors at the time of death by saying yes each time they obtain or renew their driver's license, or go to www.donatelifecolorado.org anytime. Again, donatelifecolorado.org at any time. This is an issue that, as of recently, has become very personal for me also. And I'll do a tribute later this month to the people that are close to my wife and I, who lost a daughter this year and donated their organs and tissues recently. A young woman from Parker, just in her early 20s. And this is important. This is so important because it helps those who are still here, but it helps us honor those that we have lost. So please check it out. Thank you.
Senator Buckner.
And I would be remiss if I did not mention the name of Emily Keys. You all remember she was unfortunately killed during the Platte Canyon High School in Bailey attack. And in her memory, her parents started this organ donation fund, and then my husband's name was added to it in 2017. So it's really important, but I did not want to forget mentioning Emily Key's name today as well.
Further announcements. Senator Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to ask for a moment of personal privilege.
Granted.
Thank you, colleagues. I didn't do this yesterday. We had another resolution and people here that I thought was important that we paid attention to, but just wanted to acknowledge yesterday was Cesar Chavez's birthday. And this weekend there will be the Cesar Chavez March happening in Denver. It starts at Regis after a mass and it marches down to Cesar Chavez Park. I just wanted to read the tribute out loud. Cesar E. Chavez, born March 31st, 1927, was a prominent Latino civil rights union, farm worker, and environmental justice leader of the 20th century. His leadership secured safer working conditions, higher wages, and collective bargaining rights for thousands of ag workers. Chavez was an ardent champion of nonviolent social change, which included boycotts, strikes, and fasting as strategies against the mistreatment and economic injustices suffered at the workplace. Cesar Chavez founded the United Farm Workers of America, which became the first successful farm workers union in American history. The lifelong work of Chavez in the farm workers movement included establishing the first credit union for farm workers, health clinics, daycare centers, job training, a burial program, affordable housing, retirement homes, and home ownership programs. He also created 2 educational-style Spanish-language radio stations for farm workers, which has flourished to become the 13-station Radio Campesina network. His leadership influenced millions of Americans, helped build a national and diverse civil rights coalition, and continues to inspire Latinos to advocate for themselves and their communities. The legacy of Cesar Chavez transcends any cause, movement, or fight for social justice. Just wanted to recognize the work that this person's done. Many of you may not know, I got to meet him in my younger days, which I was 18 and didn't realize it until I got older, that the time I got to spend with somebody that was a huge icon for us. Anybody who wants to come to my office, I have an autograph poster. But just want to acknowledge the work, and I'm here with my colleagues, and just want to recognize the work he's done for our communities. As we worked on bills together and stuff, that sometimes we can do this peacefully and honorably, and I'd like to pass it on to my colleague.
Senator Jaquez Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you to my colleague for that beautiful tribute and arranging it. Just wanted to say a few words about his work and the work that he did with so many people. Cesar E. Chavez's legacy lives on in our safer working conditions for a whole host of workers, not only farmers, but child care workers and many other labor jobs. He campaigned for a living wage and for collective bargaining for thousands of workers. And under his leadership, along with Dolores Huerta and Valdemar Velasquez and other union organizers, he really helped keep our communities safer by working to outlaw toxic chemicals like DDT that almost wiped out many of our ospreys, brown pelicans, and America's beloved bald eagle. Chavez and Huerta educated us about grassroots power. His 1988 Fast for Life protest was inspired in part by clusters of birth defects and deaths in the farm worker community due to some of these chemicals. He warned that they could choke out the life of our people and the life system that supports us all. Cesar Chavez realized that workers needed much more than just a higher wage. He really wanted to address all the aspects of what American working families need. That he did increase not only looking at quality health care, but where it's located. He pushed for health care centers and daycare centers to actually be located near families, and the worker housing not just be centered around their employers, but to be able to participate in home ownership. He continues to inspire and influence Latinas and Latinos all over the world. In his own words, I am convinced that the truest act of courage, the strongest act of manliness, is to sacrifice ourselves for others in a totally nonviolent struggle for justice. Cesar Chavez.
Senator Buckner.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to ask for a moment of personal privilege.
Granted.
This is in recognition of the month of April as Child Abuse Prevention Month. All of the more than 1.2 million children in Colorado deserve to be valued, healthy, and thriving. And conditions in our state where people live, learn, work, and play affect a wide range of health risks and outcomes, including child abuse and neglect. A serious problem which affects every segment of our state is child abuse and neglect.
Senator Smallwood.
Thank you, Mr. President. I too ask for a moment of personal privilege.
Granted.
Standing in support of this tribute, colleagues, when parents, caregivers, family, friends, neighbors, employers, and elected leaders work together to increase 5 critical protective factors in families' lives. That is when we can prevent child abuse, strengthen families, and build brighter childhoods. And when effective child abuse prevention activities succeed, it's because of the partnerships that are created between child welfare professionals, education, health, community and faith-based organizations, businesses, law enforcement agencies, and families.
Senator Kirkmeyer.
Thank you, Mr. President. I too ask for a moment of personal privilege.
Granted.
Thank you. Our state is growing a better tomorrow for all children, together by making every effort to promote programs and activities that create strong and thriving children and families by using pinwheels for prevention. And we acknowledge that we must work together as a state to increase awareness of how to prevent child maltreatment and promote the social and emotional well-being of children and families in safe, stable, and nurturing environments. April is National Child Abuse Prevention Month, and we urge all residents of our state to recognize this month by dedicating themselves to the task of improving the quality of life for all children and families, and to get their blue on and to get their pinwheel. And the reason we use the pinwheel for Child Abuse Prevention Month is because it is the very nature the pinwheel connotes playfulness, joy, and childhood. It has come to serve as a physical reminder of the bright future and wonderful childhood we want for all children.
Senator Fields.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to request a moment of personal privilege.
Granted.
Thank you. I join with my colleagues in support of recognizing April as Child Abuse Prevention Month. What's so special about this tribute today is the people that you see in front of you, because they represent motherhood, they represent fatherhood, they represent parenthood. And for some of us, we're nanas, which means that we're grandmothers too. And we play a very important role in protecting children from neglect and abuse, as well as policymakers. So on this day, I'm also reminded of the many Ukraine children who are traumatized by war. I'm also reminded about the children that we have right here in this state who are suffering from unstable homes or lack the food that they need or shelter. So today I challenge each of you to do all that we can to support Colorado kids.
Senator Zenzinger.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to request a moment of personal privilege.
Granted.
In the same vein, members, I want to call out the good work of an organization in my community, the Ralston House Child Advocacy Center. This is the most fantastic organization. Every year during Colorado Gives Day, I make this organization my #1 priority. What this organization does is it really helps child victims heal from abuse. You would be surprised how many clients they actually served. It's heartbreaking, but they do it with compassion and humanity. The Ralston House Child Advocacy Center works with law enforcement. It works with human services agencies, district attorneys' offices in both the 1st Judicial and 17th Judicial Districts. This covers the communities of Jefferson County, Adams County, Gilpin County, and Broomfield counties. And what they do is they work within the community to provide a safe place to investigate child abuse and to ensure that victim services for children who have been physically or sexually abused or have witnessed violence are served. Unfortunately, Ralston House is projected to do over 1,000 forensic interviews and medical exams for children and teens each year. But they do more than that. They also provide education and outreach to the general public to prevent child abuse. And if you have an opportunity to Google Ralston House, you can see a picture of their pinwheel garden, and there are opportunities for you to participate in that pinwheel garden. So thank you very much.
Senator Heisey for...
A moment of personal privilege, please, Mr. President.
Only if you're sharing. Granted.
So last evening, I attended the sesquicentennial, I've done that better before, celebration, the gala for Canyon City, and came away with a bottle of Resurrectionist Red, which, coming from the Abbey, you would kind of suspect that might be okay. Bottle number 69 of 75. It is my intent to not leave it there, but to keep it up here at the Capitol on the off chance that perhaps the barbecue will be fired up sometime before we're out of here. So now, Mr. President, if I could move into announcement. They are not through celebrating down there. This Saturday, I would say for those of you that weren't there, but that would be everybody but me, they're continuing their celebration. Skydivers, petting zoo, that'd be Saturday afternoon. Cars through the decades, food trucks, of course, and then they have a show at 6:30 and a fireworks off of Skyline Drive at 8 o'clock. For those of you who go to bed too early on July 4th to catch the fireworks, this is your opportunity to catch fireworks and still be in bed at a reasonable time. So they would love to have you come celebrate with them.
Thank you, Senator Heisey. I think there might be an opportunity to crack that open next week. Perhaps Wednesday. Senator Hansen.
Thank you, Mr. President. Next week, members, is Shark Week. Budget week. It's going to be great. Get ready. We're on the cusp of passing the long bill together. The only bill we have to pass, we get to look at next week together. The rough schedule, or give you a little heads up on how the week is going to go. I thought it'd be worthwhile just sketching this out. We are planning to have the bill introduced into the chamber on Monday. It will then be available for consideration by appropriations. And remember, this is the long bill plus the orbital bills, which are about 25 orbital bills that go with the long bill this year, making various statutory adjustments that correspond to budgetary decisions. We then will consider those on Tuesday morning. That will then give folks a chance to prepare the 1 or 2 amendments that I'm expecting. So appreciate your help with that. Those are due at 4 o'clock on Tuesday. Hard deadline, everyone. 4 p.m. on Tuesday. Please let myself or the other members of JBC know if you need any help with those or connecting to the right person at the JBC staff. But those are due by 4 p.m. on Tuesday. We then will plan on considering the long bill and the orbitals on the floor during seconds on Wednesday, and then thirds, of course, on Thursday. So that's the schedule, the plan for next week. And thank you, Mr. Majority Leader, for reminding me that on Wednesday morning, before we do seconds, we will have Republican and Democrat caucuses on the long bill and the orbitals. So it'd be a chance for us to have our public meeting for each of the sides of the aisle to discuss the long bill and the orbitals. So plan on that before we do seconds on Wednesday. And appreciate your time and look forward to Budget Week.
Senator Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. President. I request a moment of personal privilege.
Granted.
Well, members, colleagues, people of Colorado, it's April 1st. Have a great weekend.
Majority Leader Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Senate recess until 12 p.m. today. Colleagues, you do not need to return. Enjoy your weekend. We are simply waiting for a bill to read across the desk.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the Senate will recess until 12 p.m. today.